Welcome everyone, this is Anne Manera, and today we are coloring a grayscale coloring page from the color along book that we're currently working on. And I'm going to be using Castle Arts Monet Collection colored pencils today. So we're going to focus on this grayscale coloring page, which is an illustration that can be found in my coloring book Sketched, and I'll link that in the description of this video. And what I really want to focus on today is the highlights. So how do we do that? And one of the things that I'm going to use is an eraser, and I have a white eraser. And what makes it, excuse how dirty this is, but it's been used many, many times. Let's see if I have a different one. No, I do not. But we want to focus on this highlighted area. So when you're coloring a grayscale coloring page, you really want to focus on where the lights and the darks already are. So let's start off with the glass bottle itself, and I'm going to go with a green color for that. And I'm going to use chrome green and leaf green, and I'm going to mix them together. So the first thing I'm going to do is color light pressure with chrome green. Now, two things I want to say about coloring a grayscale coloring page. I like to go with an even pressure, a nice light pressure. I don't want to do a heavy pressure because I want to follow the lights and the darks. So we've got this area in the middle, and I'm going to just kind of give it a light pressure here. And the reason why I have my eraser is because we're going to actually use the eraser as if we were using a pencil. Of course, typical color along fashion, I have to go get a dog a biscuit. So hang on one second. Sorry about that. Here you go, Scarlett. So this is, again, like I said, chrome green, and I'm just using the page that's in the coloring book. Scarlett, you gotta lay down, honey, okay? Lay down with your biscuit. Go ahead, sweetie. So you see how this is the darker section here? As I'm coloring on top of that versus coloring this lighter area here, it's giving me a lighter color because I'm following the lights and the darks already in the coloring page. I'm really not pressing any harder as I color into the middle section here. I'm going to go back over now. Oh, I gotta color this top part. What am I thinking? Right here. Now look at that, completely the same type of pressure, right? So now this is leaf green, and I'm gonna go over this leaf, over this color here, and it's just gonna kind of give it a little bit of a brightness to it. It's gonna brighten up that green. I think if I was going to use this color on its own, it would have been a little too, like, I don't know, it reminds me of a green apple. It definitely would not have been green bottle, green glass type color. Well, at least not in my opinion. So just kind of going right back over, again, same pressure. I'm kind of using a light to medium pressure on all of this. And now I'm going to go back in. I'm going to go in with Viridian, which is a much darker color, darker green color, along kind of like the edges. The other thing that I like to do is go with color in the direction of what the object is. I don't want to outline it because, you know, this is like what's in real life, and things in real life are not outlined. That's it, girls. There's no more biscuits. All right, so there's my green bottle. Now, you've got this middle section here. Scarlett, there's no more, honey. Go lay down, baby. Come on, go lay down. You've got this middle section here. And I'm going to take my eraser, and I can just clean it just on a piece of paper. Let's make sure that's a clean section that we're using. And I'm just gonna erase away. So that I get that highlight that's in there. Now for the label, I'm going to use kind of like an ochre color, which I believe is this one called yellow ochre. And again, I am going to just do a light pressure. And then it's kind of picking up all of those little scribbles in there. That's kind of like, you know, the impression of the label. And I'm going to take this lighter color here, which is called cadmium yellow, just to kind of brighten it up a little bit. And go back with my Viridian and just kind of add a little bit of a dark accent to that. See right there? And up here. It's like an unfinished line. We don't want it to be completely, you know, a line. We just want it to kind of be an unfinished type line. Even down here. All right, now we've got our bottle all set. What kind of wine are we drinking? I guess we're drinking red. And I've got to do my cork, which I'm going to use, again, I'm going to use yellow ochre. But I'm using a heavier pressure for this part right here. Just because I want it to be a little bit darker. And then I'm going to go back in with sepia. And just give it a little bit of a light touch. Kind of go like a little bit of a light touch on that section. Because there's the top of it. Okay. Now, we are drinking red wine, apparently. So, because why drink, you know, white wine in a coloring page? I'm going to use alizarin crimson. And the wine is here, okay? So there's our glass. It's not completely full. It's half full. And for this, you can kind of see, excuse me, I have the hiccups. Every time I do a color along, I have the hiccups. You can kind of see the way the dark shades are in there. And I do want to make sure that I see that dark line there because we want to be able to see the glass through it too. Now, a lot of people say, well, how do you color the glass, the you know, the wine over the, how do you make it look like it's inside the glass? We're going to actually color on top of this, believe it or not. So we've got my alizarin crimson, and then I'm going to go on top of that with, oh, this is the same color. What am I thinking? Alizarin crimson. Imagine if I used that and I was using the same color on top of the same color, thinking it was actually making it better. Well, there's, you know, I like this Castle Art set of colored pencils. However, I don't like that every set does not have its own colors. Does that make sense? I guess it's a first world problem. But I really do like that. I like the colors, but you can have 4 different sets and you have duplicates. So, and apparently my pencils are not in order. I don't know which ones they came from. So, and they even have the same numbers. 087, 087. Well, at least they're consistent with that. So there's that, as they say. Doesn't it drive you crazy when people say, and there's that? All right, now, I'm going to go back in with my chrome green, I believe it was called. Chrome. And I want to make it so that it matches. So here's my chrome green. I should tell Alexa to turn off her music here. Hold on a second. Let me get it to turn off. So here's my chrome green. Now I'm going to go on top of it. You know, that's how we're going to get that look. The other way you can get that look is if you put a little bit of gray. There's the rim of the glass. And how do we want to make, we want to make sure that this glass is in front of the bottle. So we want to make sure that this part right here, this little section here is going to be darker. And this section is going to be darker than the glass. But again, no outlining. Tricky, isn't it? And you want to kind of make it so that it's not going to be like a hairy look. I don't know if that makes sense. But you don't want to have like too much scratchiness. Where is my leaf green? Here you go. Just to kind of brighten it up a little bit, especially in these lighter areas. Now, as I'm coloring on top of the wine, I am kind of picking up, if you can see, let me see if there's another page. I want to see the other page. Wait a minute. This book has 2 copies of every page so that you can color twice, or, you know, if you make a mistake. See this page here before it's colored, how it has these little sections of darkness, of darker colors, like a shading. Well, if you can, I don't know if you can tell in here, but it's picking up that green, and that's what we want to happen, because it's almost like that's the, see, that's the glass. And now I'm going to come in with my Viridian, like I did with the bottle, and just kind of give it a little bit of some weight to the bottom. So this reminds me of, like, you know, when you wear black pants. And just a little bit of a darkness on top of a little bit of this Viridian. Again, referencing back to the unfinished page here. Go back in with this leaf green. And if you add a little bit of gray in this, it'll actually kind of make it look a little bit more like glass. You could actually add this color too, which is mauve. It's more of a lavender color. But let's see what happens if we add this gray color, which is Payne's gray. Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm just going to kind of add it on top of what's there to make it look a little more translucent. Because don't forget, this is a glass. So you want to be able to say that what's inside that glass is what you can pick up. And I'm going to take my eraser and just kind of give it a little bit of an erase. Just to kind of give a little bit of a highlight. Clean the page back here and clean my eraser at the same time. This eraser feels like it's maybe too old. I don't know. All right, now we're moving on to the cheese. And for this cheese, I am going to use this yellow color, which is cadmium yellow. I guess we can pretend that this is Swiss. And I'm just giving it a nice coat of, or layer. I want this part of the Swiss cheese to be darker than the top part, and that'll make it look like it's more dimensional. I'm going to add some of this peach color to see what happens to that. This is called Flesh Deep. Kind of brightens up that cheese color. You could also make this into blue cheese by adding like some blue. We could do that, I guess. I don't really like blue cheese, but it's okay. In this case, I'll make an exception. This one is called Mulberry. No, too purple for me. Well, let's see. When you think about blue cheese, it really does kind of have like a mulberry-ish, you know. It's kind of a greenish blue, right? Kind of a little bit of an edge to it. And we'll add this color here, which is cerulean, which is one of my favorites. I think you can kind of see what's happening. And now we're moving on to the cork. Just like we did the top part here, I'm going to start out with my yellow ochre, and I'm going to go back. See, I colored this section in a circle and this one in this direction. And now I'm going to go back in with sepia. Just like that. Okay. Now, here we are on the table. And, I mean, we can really put anything on the table. I'm going to kind of go with something bright. I guess I'll introduce alizarin crimson again. And I'm going to color in the direction of the table. Light pressure. I'm trying not to take my pencil off the page because I want it to be the same pressure. And that's a trick to, you know, you don't want to have a lot of starts and stops. Now this is just simple because it really just picked up the light part of the table, which is in the foreground. And as you get underneath here, I don't really have to do anything to this portion that's underneath the objects because there's my darks, and that's the beauty of Grayscale. And what I really think that Grayscale helps do is really helps define the lights and the darks for you when you're coloring something else that's not Grayscale. So it's almost like subconsciously you have an idea. I'm taking, this one is burnt umber, and I'm just kind of, I don't really need to do it for this, but I'm just adding a little bit of burnt umber. Very, 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 very light on top of that area that is dark. And this line here, and kind of under the cheese and under the cork, just to kind of make it look like it's more three-dimensional. It's sitting on top of the table. Now, the other thing is that you think of it like this. You can always add more, but you don't want to have to take away. So don't go crazy, you know? Sip it. As they like, sip your water, just don't gulp it. Think of it like that. So you don't want to add too much color because you can always kind of add again. Let's put a little bit of this burnt umber in between here so it makes it look like it's a little more kind of like, you know, on top of one another. And I'll put a little bit here. You can also use black for this too, but I didn't want to be too harsh. Now we have a background, and for this background I wanted to choose a color that is going to make the rest of it pop. So when you take a look at this, you can also think to yourself, well, what's the opposite? Well, the opposite of green for the bottle would be red, but I don't want to make it look too Christmassy. So we already got the pink in there, so there's some opposites. So we can go with something that's going to complement it. And think about colors that might complement what's there. And to me, what's going to complement that is a blue. So I'm going to take this cobalt blue color and color inside this area here. So what it's going to do is just kind of really bring out that green. Now, again, there's kind of like some areas around the objects that are dark. So if I just color my whole background nice and one pressure without worrying about pressing down, trying to keep my pencil only on the coloring page and never lifting it up, you know, no stops and starts, it's going to pick up what is going on in the background. It's going to pick up those, hold on, I gotta go close this window because I don't know what's going on outside my house. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. So I'm just gonna see I did a start and a stop, right? I stopped. I don't want to do that. Because look what happens. See this line right here? This is a perfect example of why I don't want to do that. But what I do want to do is I want to just kind of gradually do kind of a gradation. Go from like a light or a dark to a light as I'm going up. And if you notice on this coloring page, the background of the page itself is not white, it's gray. Of this illustration, like within the confines of the four walls. The line, the box around it. The four walls. And I kind of like the scratchiness that's there, but I am going to take my eraser and almost kind of do like a blend with it. It kind of blends it up, pulls it up. I'm pressing, I'm using my eraser like a colored pencil, where I'm kind of like going from heavy pressure to light pressure as I'm erasing up and pulling. It's more of a pull. I'm pulling the color up. And now let's move on to this side. So what you can see here is that I've added a darker color, essentially, around the objects. However, let's think about this. The light source may be coming from where my pencil is here, where this purple pencil is. So it's coming from the upper right-hand corner. So as it's coming up from that, then that's why it would be much lighter up in this corner. So let's focus on that part. So I'm just going up and down, just like I did on the other side. But this part right here is going to be much lighter. But I still have to put a little bit of color because we don't want it to be like, you know, stark white, or we don't want it to look like, you don't want it to look like there's just like a beam of light there. But in this part right here, we're going to do a little bit of another layer in here too, because, you know, this is where the sun don't shine. And then I'm going to take my eraser, just like I did for the other side, and I'm going to start kind of like right like near the top of the cheese and pull up. So we really kind of focused, I don't know why there's a like smudge right there. We really focused on, you know, using the eraser. And for this part here, I'm going to just do a little bit of an erase at the top of that. A little bit of an erase there at the top of that cork, just so it has a little bit of a highlight. Hope that makes sense. I'm just going to take a good look, see if I need to add anything else. I don't really think I do. I think that I'm happy with how it came out. So again, this is a Grayscale coloring page. This is from the color along book that we're currently working on. And for today's color along, I use Castle Art's Monet collection. Now, are all the pencils in this box that this may be a different color palette, because they seem to, I don't know if I've kept them all in complete order, but post your finished page in the Just Color coloring group so we can see. And let me know what you think about this technique in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, everyone.